Ciao.
Oh, hello, Dimitri. Listen, I can't hear too well. Do you suppose you could turn the music down just a little?
Talk about how much we like hanging out.
Sweet.
Because that's kind of how this show goes. Hey, I got to start off, by the way, with, Jeff Gamet is here with us, everybody. Jeff Gamet, what are we saying? Are you like Ronin at this point? Do you have anything in particular that you're pushing? Do you have a podcast that you're doing? Do you have a blog that you want people to go to? What are you? Where do we send people?
I love the idea of being Ronin.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You're welcome.
So cool.
Take that and go.
Yeah, it's, I think a couple months ago, I was saying, hey, I have a new podcast I'm getting ready to start.
Yeah.
Well, this is the kind of year where life gets in the way of a lot of things.
Sure.
So that, like many other projects, was put temporarily on hold. But I think we're back at a place where, hey, I think I'm starting a podcast soon.
Oh, okay. So you'll let us know if you do.
Yes.
All right, because I'll be sure to let people know about it on, the various channels that I have. I feel kind of bad, actually. It's possible that you've not been able to start a podcast because I just keep starting them.
Yes. This is all on you.
Right,
I am so disappointed.
Sucking all the air out of the room. I need to apologize before we really begin. I think the reason that I always mess up the Mountain Time Zone, and I always mess up the Mountain Time Zone, it's the one of the 4 in the continental U.S. or the contiguous 48 that I haven't lived in. And so I have no frame of reference. For me, for most of my life, Mountain Time has always been an hour earlier. And so when you and I said, hey, we're recording at 5, I thought, great. And that's like 6 his time, maybe 9. I have no idea. And it turns out, no, we were recording at 5 your time, which I think was my idea.
Yes,
for my time, and still I'm like, I got like another 2 hours, I think. I don't even. Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, in your defense, Mountain Time is sort of like the Gen X of time zones because it's the one that keeps getting forgotten about and skipped over.
Yeah, it's true. Plus, it spends half its time baked.
That too. And you remember when back when we were kids?
Yeah.
And they do a commercial for a TV show.
Yep.
And they tell you the times, and they would rattle off Eastern, Central, Pacific.
Yep. 8 Eastern, 7 Central is what I always heard because I grew up, of course, in the Central time zone.
Right. And they would skip over Mountain Time.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Because there's like 8 people who live there. I mean, that could be why.
Well... Okay, yeah, this checks out.
No, it's fine. Sorry. Anyway, I apologize for getting us started late, especially because now What's News to Jeff is late getting to every... That's not how podcasts work, but still, it means that we're late starting on the big question that starts us off every Monday. It's news to blank. I think people listening to this know, but just in case you don't, I have a hard time getting started. And so basically I call the guest and I'm like, you got anything for Monday? And then I package that as a news story that I might have missed or the one that particularly interests them. And so I call Jeff Gamet and I say, hey, what's news to Jeff Gamet? And Jeff Gamet says...
And Jeff Gamet says, hey, did you hear that Apple is dropping their cut from App Store sales from 30% to 15%?
I did. Something weird has been happening with Mac OS X lately, actually, where I like 2 or 3 times last week, the whole first half of the show is basically dedicated to one story. And so I want to say Thursday of last week was actually all about that, but it wasn't just about that. It was also about Tim Sweeney pitching a fit and comparing himself to Rosa Parks. So I think that worked out pretty well for him too. Let me ask you.
Yeah, that's going to age well.
Yeah, I think it's already doing wonders. Tell me what it is about this story that cranks your motor.
Well, it's one of those things where I'm having to really work through the whole process to figure out, is Apple doing this just because they think it's time to do this and it's the right thing to do for developers? Is this something Apple is doing because they're thinking, if we do this, all of these complaining people and lawsuit things will just magically go away?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, is this altruistic or is it just strategic?
Well,
and the conclusion I'm coming to is it's both.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, it can be altruistic and strategic, I don't think, but that doesn't mean it can't benefit other people and Apple.
How about strategically altruistic?
Well, I mean, again, we now go into a philosophical discussion that a friend of mine and I had decades ago about whether there's any such thing as altruism. Like, if you do something self-sacrificing, you do that self-sacrificing thing because you couldn't live with yourself if you didn't. And thus, it is not altruistic because, I mean, you're still doing what you could live with. And to say that any corporation does anything altruistically, there was that guy whose chair factory burned down in like the 90s, a guy in New England. I can't remember his name, but like his whole operation burned down and everybody's like, well, we're going to lose all these jobs and, you know, it's probably going to go south, or maybe he's just going to shut up, because I want to say he was like 107 years old. Not really,
wow,
but he was like in his 80s. And what he instead did was paid all of his employees while he rebuilt the factory and then put the factory back where it was. That to me is altruism, because he could have taken his money and run, could have taken the insurance money. He could have gone someplace where you get cheaper labor. He could have just sold the brand to somebody else. That struck me as altruistic. I can't think of another corporation thing that's done that. But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting way off your topic.
No, I'm totally enjoying this.
You think it could be, you think it's both?
Well, yes. And of course, I totally accept now that I'm using the term altruistic in a very loose sense.
Okay.
Now that we've worked through the philosophical aspects of this.
Right.
So from the, and I'm doing air quotes, altruistic. See what you've done to me?
Oh, sorry. Well, I mean, we have met, though.
That's true.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm inclined to do, I'm afraid.
That's all right. It's one of the reasons why I love you.
Thanks, man.
So the altruistic part.
Yeah.
I mean, Apple's at the point where they make money faster than they can spend it. Mm-hmm. And I think that is probably literally correct.
Yeah. That
it's impossible to spend money as fast as they're making it. So are they at the point where the operational costs of running their App Store system is at a place where they don't need to have a 30% cut to cover those costs? Because we were both around when Apple introduced all this and said 30% is what they're going to take, which at the time everyone was like, wow, that's a lot less than it costs to put our software in physical stores by a substantial margin. So that's cool. And Apple is saying, look, we have to cover the costs of actually running and supporting the store, so 30% will do it.
Right.
Maybe there's enough money coming in now, and the way things are balanced out, it doesn't take 30% cut to run the App Store anymore. So take it down to 15 for all the companies or developers that are bringing in less than $1 million a year. And that would actually be the vast majority of developers. And Apple isn't taking a hit, and everyone's happy. So we've got the altruistic part covered, except that, of course, we have people saying, "But I'm like Rosa Parks," and writing letters where they continually or multiple times refer to Apple's move as Machiavellian, and which I thought, that was just, let's do a chef's kiss.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. I'm not sure who's wrong here. I do think that Apple, I think you're right. I think everything you're saying is absolutely correct, including they could definitely afford to cut, they could cut, Epic down to 15%. They could cut Spotify down to 15%. Because they have so much money, they could afford to cut everybody down to 15%. What's funny, though, is they're saying, well, we're going to do this as a small business program, and so we want to help the small business developer. And that does actually put, the Coalition for App Fairness kind of in a difficult spot. Because now, you have to say, I mean, well, I don't know. Basically, you now are at a place, if you're Epic, if you're the Coalition for App Fairness, you're now in a place of having to say, well, that's not fair because those people who don't have as much as me are getting more help than I'm getting, which it's kind of like Spotify is Spotify is still the biggest on the planet as far as music is concerned, as far as subscribers are concerned, and as far as revenue is concerned. I don't think that will be forever, but they still are for now. How do you keep going and crying poor mouth when you also keep crushing numbers?
Yeah. And when we're in a year where all of the little guys need a little bit extra help, I mean, this is a really messed up year, just all the way around.
Yeah.
And Apple's saying, hey, look, we're helping out the small business guy. And you're the big business guy and you're crying foul.
Yeah.
Now you kind of look like the jerk.
Kind of too bad that they're doing it on the 1st of January instead of the 1st of December, because I can't help thinking, they might sell a couple of extra apps, like even that last week of December. I mean, which is fine because, I mean, they're still doing it and that's great. And I'm not knocking them for that. I did imagine that there were probably a few developers going, oh, gee, that's great right after the holidays. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like December 25th, there's always a huge spike in App Store sales because of everyone that got a new iPhone or iPad for Christmas.
Yeah. Well.
Or whatever holiday they're getting it for. But, I mean, that December 25th date is significant for developers.
Yeah. Did you hear about South Korea, by the way, and what they've the letter that they've written to Google? I was just writing this story before we came on. It's for Monday's macOS Ken, actually, or as we started talking. And
so do tell.
Well, South Korea has basically written to Google and said, why can't you be more like Apple? Look what they're doing with the 15% for people under $1 million and then everybody else more. Come on, Google, be a mensch, says South Korea. I'm pretty sure none of those words were actually used, but they basically written to...
I think that's actually a verbatim quote.
That'd be fantastic. Chairman of People Power Party in South Korea. Come on up, Google, be a mensch.
Yeah.
That's exactly how that went.